Game developers are always trying to make a game better than their last. This has led to the quality of games over time becoming better and better. But what if I did the opposite? What if instead of trying to improve as a game developer and make a game better than my last, I tried making the worst game ever? My challenge was to try to make a game that took everything that makes a good game good and getting rid of it. So let's make the worst game ever. To get started on making the worst game ever, I needed a plan. I needed to understand what makes a good game, and I needed to figure out how I could completely go against that. Since we really wanted to make this the worst game ever, we needed a good planning tool to help us with that, which is where our sponsor of the video, Milanote, comes in. To put it simply, Milanote is a tool for organizing creative projects. Since there is a lot that goes into making games, it's important to have a way to organize your game development project all in one place, which is where Milanote comes in. To get started with the planning for this game, I created a new board on Milanote called the worst game ever. Now, when you create a new board on Milanote, you can use different templates, which are tailored towards what you do and what you're using Milanote for. Since I'm using it for game development, I've got a bunch of game development planning templates. For this board, we're going to use the game design document, which is perfect for planning games. We needed to brainstorm ways we could make this game terrible. So to do this, we wrote down a list of 4 things that make a good game, and then for each feature of a good game, we wrote how we could go against it. Starting with the gameplay. Platform games have the player move and jump around levels to reach their objectives. To do the opposite of this, we wanted to have poorly programmed platforming mechanics. For example, the player mechanics would just randomly stop working, or some of the ground objects won't be solid and the player will just fall through the world. The next thing that makes a good game is a good game story. Our game, however, was not going to have a story. For our game graphics, they were not going to be a consistent style, with some objects not having graphics at all. And for the final product of our game, well, it was going to be incomplete. I decided that I wasn't actually going to make a full game, because that would at least make the game kind of good. Since we wanted our game to be the worst game ever, I decided it would be best to not finish the game at all. I was planning on finishing up to halfway through level 2 and then just stopping. Now that we had a basic idea of how we could make our game the worst game ever, we created a new board on Milanote where we could list off all the bad features our game would have as to-do blocks, so we could check them off as we added them to the game. This was helpful to have a visual list of features we needed to add to the game and work through them one by one. The next thing we needed to do was plan the game design, starting with the graphics. Now, even though some of our game graphics were just going to be incomplete, like our enemy and our end of level sprites, we still needed to have some type of graphics in our game. I got a bunch of free game assets and paired them together in Milanote to see what worked. This was really helpful for planning a graphic style that worked for my game, as I was able to have all the key game graphics in one space. The next game design feature we had to plan was the level design. This was simple, as we just added a few different reference images from platform games, which we could use for inspiration when making our game levels. The final thing we needed to do was design a game character. To do this, I found a few images of different game characters for inspiration, and then I made this. With that, our game was officially planned. If you'd like to check out Milanote and use it to start helping with your creative projects today, you can sign up to a free Milanote account with no time limit by using my link in the description. Now, it's time to make the game. To get started with making the game, I created a new game maker project and programmed a simple platformer movement system, but I added a timer that would randomly make the movement system stop working. I added a few of the game graphics and we had a system that worked. Well, worked for this game. The next thing we needed were some enemies. The enemies were pretty simple. They would just move back and forth, but you could jump on top of their heads to take them out. But as for our bad features board on Milanote, we had a planned feature that some enemies could not be taken out. So we added a random chance that by jumping on top of the enemy, the level would just restart. And yes, there isn't even an animation for when the player gets taken out, the level just restarts. The next thing I started doing was building out the level, but in some places I didn't put a solid object, so the player would just fall through the world. Overall, the game was coming along absolutely terribly, so things were looking good. Right at the start of the level, there is a jump that the player cannot make, but there is a way to get there. I'll just let you figure it out if you want to play the game for yourself. I added some spikes to the game, continued to build out the level, and added some coins. Now, the thing with the coins is that sometimes there is a coin that actually restarts the level when you collide with it. Why did I add this feature? Well, because this is the worst game ever, and this is a feature that belongs in the worst game ever. I added some clouds and a sky gradient background to our game, and added a main menu. We decided to call our game Bad Platformer, fitting. The last thing we had to do was make our final level, which was half of level 2, and our game was incomplete. Awesome. Now that the game was complete, incomplete? Now that we had created the worst game ever, it was time to test it out. But before that, if you'd like to play the game, you can play it for free over at itch.io with my link in the description. And on top of that, if you'd like to download the game source code so you can see how I made the game, or add to the game yourself, you could try and make it better or worse if that's even possible, I've released the source code on my Patreon over at patreon.com/badgamedev. Anyway, let's check out the worst game ever. And here we are with Bad Platformer, also known as the worst game ever. So as you can see, we're in the main menu here, and there's only one thing you can do in this game: play. And here we go, we've spawned into our world, we've got our character here. I just tried to move, but the player froze. So yeah, this is a very interesting game. Yeah, so the objective is pretty simple, just get to the end of the level and great. All right, let's try that again. Let's, we'll try to take out the enemy, and it didn't work. And that's what makes this game interesting. Sometimes you can take out the enemy, sometimes you can't, just like that. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this jump here, you can't just run up and jump. There's a bit more to it. If you want to play the game for yourself and figure out how to get over there, you can do it, but I'm just going to show you because I'm trying to beat the game myself. So what you need to do is you need to use this second enemy here to get across. So all you need to do is jump on the enemy and try to make the jump like that. It works, you just have to time it properly. But then there's also the chance that the enemy will there's a chance that the player will freeze, but there's also a chance that the enemy will restart the level when you try to jump on their head. So yeah, let's just try it. No, it didn't work. No, my player froze as soon as I made the jump. All right, let's go. Nice. And once again. Oh no. The thing is, I made this game and I'm still forgetting where all the traps are. That is not the... Nice. I'm pretty sure the level just gets more difficult now, so... Alright, let's go. Let's continue to work through this level. We just walked into a coin that wasn't actually a coin. I feel like we're just about to walk into a trap. That's the issue. Nice. Nice. Great. Okay, cool. We've done it. We've beat the level. All right, and there you go. I've beat level 1. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to do level 2, even though there's only half a level. And that's the game. The worst game ever. And that's going to do it for the worst game ever. I'd once again like to thank Milanote for sponsoring this video. Milanote was extremely helpful during the planning and development of this game. I highly recommend you check them out, as it's an extremely useful tool for any creative projects. And you can use it for free with my link in the description. If you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit that like button. You can also leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Peace.